because of my recovery to get into the sort of psychedelic space when it's, now that it's become wellness and now that it's become acceptable. I've not been able to entertain.
Can you explain that to me? Because I'm not an addict, but I would like to know. What is it about a psychedelic experience that makes you think that if you engage, that you will somehow or another regress, lose all control, start doing heroin, your life is going to fall apart? You're clearly not the same person. You're clearly not the same person, even though you've experienced the same traumas that led you into heroin addiction in the first place. You have clearly gotten a certain control over your life, an understanding of yourself, a personal sovereignty that you didn't possess when you were an addict. So what makes you think that this entheogen, this literal psychedelic connection to a higher realm, would ruin your life?
Yeah, I know. Because the thing is, I really, really want to. I'm like, when I was still using, I took psychedelics in the same way all kids take psychedelics.
For fun.
For fun, in a park, at a bus stop, and knowing that there's something ontologically profound happening. Like, most observably, and I'm talking about myself as a 16-year-old, like, hold on a minute, I'm not real. Like, I am not my memory of myself. I am not my projections. I am the consciousness that is observing that set of data. I'm observing my feelings. I'm observing my thoughts. I'm beyond it. So beyond like all that stuff, I was aware that this was profound. But also I was doing it on my own with like just kids drinking cider at a bus stop in Essex. I wasn't doing it like with a shaman or a doctor or Aldous Huxley or Terence McKenna or like some Brazilian guy with feathers and stuff. I was like at a bus stop in the rain, in the grimness of greys where I'm from. So like I've maintained this fascination because I feel, well, I'm a 12-step person, and 12 steps is about that there's a spiritual deficiency that causes addicts to become addicts. They're looking for something that they can't find in the world. They're looking for connection. They're looking for a deeper purpose and for meaning.
So they're also looking for escape.
Right.
Escape from the anxiety of being alive. Just the existential angst that most people carry around with them. Yeah,
it's unlivable with. But like as you say, most people carry around with them. Like we all have that. So that's
we all have a certain level of it.
Yeah, and for some reason, the addict type, according to this analysis, and it's only one analysis, and it's the one that I've got clean with, so it's the one I sort of advocate for. It's the only one I'm qualified to advocate for. The principle is, if you replicate, or not even replicate, if you create those spiritual conditions, like you belong to a community, you think about helping others, you're willing to look at what the reasons you drink and take drugs for in the first place, but fundamentally, this is the key thing, what it argues most of all, and it's like an ingenious piece of American theology, really, I would say, the 12 steps, because it was informed by William James, the theologian. It's influenced by Carl Jung, of course, and so it's a sort of a fusion of religious and spiritual ideas and psychiatry, which obviously was in a much more formative state back then. And what's fundamentally offering you is the drugs and the alcohol are not the problem. The problem is you are self-centered and egoic. You've got caught in yourself. And so like, even once you stop drinking and taking drugs, you're still going to have that problem, and you're going to have to address that problem. And when you do, you won't feel the need to drink or take drugs anymore. Now, so what becomes sort of central to the whole ideology of the 12 steps is, in a sense, the abstinence is significant and it's pivotal. You can't drink or take drugs one day at a time. But more important than that is you've surrendered. You're not in charge of your life anymore.
Right. You've given the ego a break.
Yeah, like it's like I can't run on that.
You know the story of Alcoholics Anonymous, though, and Bill W., the fact that he was into LSD.
Yes, I'm aware of that because I'm sort of an amateur historian of it, because it's an important sort of part of my wellness.
It seems like a contradiction.
That dude was out there. I mean, like, he's a prophet. Like, the guy was a stockbroker, apparently a womanizer, and yes, indeed, took LSD while in recovery. And of course, all of the materials around that fellowship are they're like 50, 60 years old. No one had 10 years clean then. No one had 20 years. I'm 20 years clean and sober.
Yeah.
No one had that. None of those, there hadn't been that much time, which makes you think about vaccine tests. How do they know what it's going to do in 10 years if you hadn't had fucking 10 years?
Right.
They didn't know how those things were going to pan out. So the reason I have this ayahuasca hesitancy, a lot of people are ayahuasca hesitant. What are we going to do about that hesitancy? Like the reason I have it is because I can't take back personal authority for what I do. And the idea is because I've been given something that's quite delicate. Like when I was destroying my life, and now I've been granted a different perspective. I shouldn't mess with that shit by doing something that would necessarily involve I'm in charge, even though I really want to. When I hear you and other people on your show and Duncan Troll talk about smoking DMT and you're meeting orbs of pure consciousness, I think the whole reason I became a drug addict, remember, was because I was looking for that. I'm looking for this. This isn't reality. This can't be it. You can't expect me to just stay alive for decades more based on this bullshit. I know there's something else. The culture won't give you it. The culture won't give you are divine. You are connected to limitless. And there are other dimensions. There are other beings. The culture's just telling you, get a job. You're going to work in a call center or a factory. That's what. And you are craving the mystic. You're craving it.
But you know you're not the same guy you were when you were an addict, right? You're a different, much more mature, much more experienced person. You know the old expression, no man can ever step into a river twice because you're not the same man, that's not the same river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do that. I just I would get in that river and I would try to drink it. Or fuck it.
Why do you think you would do that? Don't you think you've learned? This is what I don't understand. And again, like, you know, I enjoy marijuana and I've enjoyed psychedelics, but I can not have anything for long periods of time and I'm fine.
Because you ain't an addict, huh? You're not an addict.
I
know that you've never taken cocaine.
No, I've never taken cocaine, but I do get addicted to video games. I do get addicted to... I could find myself, I think, if I did start doing a lot of coke, or if I was at a different stage in my life and I wasn't concentrating on being productive and concentrating on being healthy, being physically healthy, being physically fit, and also using exercise as a means to mitigate anxiety and for just to keep my mind straight. It's so important to me. And that if I didn't have those things, and maybe I was drinking every day or doing coke or doing something, I could see myself falling apart. I could see myself, because I think it's just a natural human characteristic.
Yeah.
But right now, like if someone said, hey, are you worried that you would get hooked on something? I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't, because if I thought I was getting hooked on it, I would just stop, because I'm not interested in doing anything that's detrimental to me. I'm not interested in doing anything that's going to tank my life.
No, and neither am I really, but I'm like, I guess what we're analysing is that, like, you know, one of the areas of distinction between our two natures, there are some things that are quite similar. It sounds like we're from pretty similar types of background. It sounds like that we both had negative experiences of a step parent, and I don't know if that's true actually. If you
my stepdad's actually a good guy,
right? Like, but at the time I didn't.
But I did have negative experiences with my biological father. And there was a divorce when I was very young. We moved around a lot. There was a lot of stuff along those lines. But it's just everybody that seeks exorbitant amounts of attention is fucked up. And if you want to go on stage, like, why would you want to go on stage? Like, what kind of a person wants that amount of attention?
Well,